The seatbelt sign chimed off with a soft ding that echoed through the first-class cabin of American Airlines Flight 447. Leah Morgan smoothed down her navy blue uniform skirt and forced her lips into the practiced smile that had become her armor over the past 2 years. Outside the oval windows, the late September sky stretched endlessly, painted in shades of amber and violet as the Boeing 777 climbed steadily toward its cruising altitude of 36,000 feet. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is your senior flight attendant, Leah Morgan, welcoming you aboard our service from New York JFK to Miami International. Her voice came out steady and warm, betraying nothing of the storm raging inside her chest. She'd been doing this for 5 years now, perfecting the art of appearing completely fine when everything inside was shattering. The first-class cabin held only 12 passengers tonight, business travelers mostly, buried in their laptops and tablets, already 2 drinks deep into forgetting whatever they were flying away from. Leah moved through the aisle with the practiced grace of someone who'd walked this path thousands of times, her trolley cart gliding silently over the plush carpet. "Can I offer you something to drink before dinner service?" Seat 2A held a man she'd noticed immediately during boarding. Not because he was handsome, though he certainly was, in that sharp-edged, dangerous sort of way that made smart women cross the street. No, she'd noticed him because he was completely still. In an age where everyone fidgeted with phones, tapped on laptops, or shifted restlessly in their seats, this man simply sat, his dark eyes watching everything with an intensity that made her skin prickle. "Macallan 18. Neat." His voice was low, controlled, with the faintest trace of an accent she couldn't quite place. Italian, maybe, or somewhere in that region. "Of course, sir." As she poured the expensive whiskey, Leah felt his gaze on her hands. They were shaking just slightly. She'd hoped no one would notice, but those dark eyes missed nothing. "Rough day?" he asked quietly. Leah's smile brightened automatically, that defensive reflex she'd developed. "Just a bit of turbulence expected tonight, sir. Nothing to worry about." She moved on before he could respond, before those observant eyes could peel back any more layers of the facade she'd constructed so carefully that morning. That morning. God, had it only been this morning? The memory crashed over her as she retreated to the galley, her hands gripping the counter until her knuckles went white. 5:30 a.m. Brooklyn. Her cramped one-bedroom apartment that never quite felt like home anymore. She'd been packing her overnight bag for the Miami turnaround when Marcus emerged from the bedroom, his jaw tight in that way that made her stomach drop. "Where's the money, Leah?" Her fingers had frozen on the zipper of her small roller bag. "What money? Don't play stupid with me." He'd crossed the small living room in 3 strides, grabbing her purse from the counter and dumping its contents across the breakfast table. Her wallet, her crew ID, her lip gloss, and there, tumbling out like an accusation, the envelope she'd been so careful to hide. "This money. $300. Where did you get it?" "I've been picking up extra flights, saving." "Saving for what, Leah?" His voice had gone quiet, which was always worse than the yelling. "What exactly do you need to save for?" "I pay the rent. I buy the groceries." "What could you possibly need that I'm not giving you?" The truth had balanced on her tongue, dangerous and desperate. "My own place. My own life. My escape." But she'd swallowed it down, like she always did. "Just a rainy day fund, Marcus. That's all." He'd stared at her for a long moment, his blue eyes cold in the early morning light filtering through the blinds. Then he'd walked to the bookshelf where she kept her most precious possession, her grandmother's vintage Polaroid camera, the one Leah had used to document her dreams of traveling the world before Marcus had slowly, systematically convinced her that her dreams were childish. "Marcus, don't." The camera hit the hardwood floor with a crack that reverberated through Leah's entire body. Plastic shattered, the lens separated from the body. 2 years of memories, of the few moments of beauty she'd managed to capture in her increasingly small world, scattered across the floor in broken pieces. "You don't need a rainy day fund when you have me," Marcus had said calmly, crushing a piece of the camera under his heel. "You don't need to save money behind my back. You don't need to plan for anything without telling me. Do you understand?" She'd nodded, mute, her eyes burning with tears she refused to let fall. Not in front of him. Never in front of him. He'd grabbed her wrist then, his fingers digging into the delicate skin hard enough to leave marks. "I love you, Leah. Why do you make me act like this? Why do you make me worry that you're planning to leave me?" "I'm not leaving," she'd whispered, because it was easier than the truth, safer than the fight that would come if she said what she really felt. "Good girl." He'd kissed her forehead, his grip loosening. "Now go to work. And Leah, next time you want to save money, you tell me first. We're a team. Teams don't keep secrets." She'd made it to the door before he'd added, "Oh, and leave your phone. I'm installing that new app I told you about, the one that helps couples stay connected. I'll have it ready when you get back tomorrow." The tracking app. He'd been threatening to install it for weeks. A sharp ding brought Leah crashing back to the present, the turbulence warning. Right on schedule. "Ladies and gentlemen, the captain has turned on the fasten seatbelt sign due to expected rough air. Please return to your seats." The next 20 minutes were a ballet of controlled chaos. Passengers gripped armrests as the plane bucked and swayed through a patch of unstable air over the Carolinas. Leah moved through the cabin with practiced efficiency, checking seatbelts, securing loose items, her mind grateful for the distraction of work. When she passed 2A, the man, she'd glimpsed his boarding pass earlier, Dante Morelli, was still utterly calm, one hand wrapped around his whiskey glass, as if the turbulence was merely a suggestion, not a command. He looked up as she passed, and for a moment their eyes met. He saw her, really saw her, in a way that made her feel naked despite being fully clothed in her crisp uniform. "You should sit down," he said quietly. "Regulations." Leah blinked. Passengers never told her to follow safety protocols. They usually complained about them. "I'm fine, sir. This is normal for—" The plane dropped suddenly, a stomach-lurching descent of at least 50 feet. Leah stumbled, and suddenly there was a hand gripping her arm, steadying her. Dante Morelli's hand, his fingers wrapped around the exact spot where Marcus's bruises were already forming under her long sleeves. She gasped, not from the turbulence, but from the pain. He released her immediately, his dark eyes narrowing. "My apologies. No, it's thank you. I should." She fled to the jump seat, her heart hammering. Had he felt the bruises? Had he noticed her wince? The turbulence passed as quickly as it had arrived, and the rest of the flight proceeded smoothly. Dinner service. Coffee service, a gradual dimming of cabin lights as passengers settled in for the short flight to Miami. Leah moved through it all on autopilot, her smile never wavering, her voice never cracking. Only her co-worker Jessica noticed something was wrong. "You okay, hun?" Jessica whispered in the galley as they prepared the pre-landing drinks. "You seem a million miles away." "Just tired," Leah replied automatically. "Picked up too many flights this month." Jessica studied her with the knowing eyes of someone who'd been flying for 15 years and had seen it all. "If you ever need to talk, I'm fine, really." But Jessica's gaze had dropped to Leah's wrist where her sleeve had ridden up just enough to reveal the edge of a bruise. Leah tugged the fabric down quickly, but the damage was done. Jessica's expression shifted from concern to recognition, and Leah felt exposed all over again. "Leah, we're beginning our descent." Leah cut her off, turning away. "I need to do the final cabin check." Miami International appeared below them, a constellation of lights against the dark Atlantic. The landing was smooth, professional, exactly what passengers expected. As the plane taxied to gate D12, Leah prepared for the ritual of goodbye, standing at the forward door with that smile fixed firmly in place. "Thank you for flying with us. Enjoy your time in Miami. Have a wonderful evening." "Thank you, safe travels." The passengers filed out, most barely acknowledging her existence. Dante Morelli was the last to leave first class, moving with unhurried grace. As he approached the door, he paused, his dark eyes finding hers. For a moment, she thought he was going to say something. His jaw tightened, his hand lifted slightly, as if he wanted to reach out. Then he seemed to think better of it and simply nodded before disappearing down the jetway. Leah released a breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding. "Girl, what was that?" Jessica appeared beside her, eyebrows raised. "That man looked at you like nothing," Leah said firmly. "He's just a passenger." But even as she said it, she felt the weight of those dark eyes, the memory of his hand steadying her, the way he'd seen through every carefully constructed wall she'd built. The post-flight routine was mercifully quick. Paperwork, equipment check, the captain's brief. Jessica invited her out for drinks with the rest of the crew, but Leah declined. She just wanted to be alone, to drop this mask she'd been wearing for the past 6 hours. The crew VIP lounge was empty when she arrived. A small blessing. Located in the quiet corner of Terminal D, it was reserved for flight crew during layovers, offering comfortable seating, showers, and blessed privacy from the chaos of the main terminal. Leah dropped her bag on one of the leather couches and made her way to the bathroom, her heels clicking against the tile floor. The fluorescent lights were harsh after the soft cabin lighting, making her flinch. She stood before the full-length mirror, finally allowing herself to really look. The woman staring back looked professional, put together, completely fine. Navy blue uniform, pressed and perfect. Hair still neat in its regulation bun. Makeup still flawless. But Leah knew the truth. She could see it in her own eyes. That haunted look that no amount of concealer could hide. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. She pulled it out, already knowing what she'd find. 17 missed calls from Marcus. 32 text messages. "Where are you? Why aren't you answering? I checked the flight tracker. You landed 20 minutes ago." "Leah, answer me right now. You're making me worry. Don't ignore me. You know I hate when you ignore me. I'm sorry about this morning. I just love you so much. Too much, maybe. Please, baby. Just let me know you're okay. Lie." Her hands shook as she scrolled through them, each message a tightening noose around her throat. She should respond. She should call him. She should apologize for making him worry. But God, she was so tired. So tired of apologizing for things that weren't her fault. So tired of managing his emotions. So tired of being afraid in her own life. She looked back at the mirror, at the woman trapped behind the glass, and that's when the tears finally came. Silent at first, just twin tracks of moisture sliding down her cheeks. Then her breath hitched once, twice, and suddenly she was crying in earnest, her carefully applied makeup running in dark rivulets, her shoulders shaking with suppressed sobs. She cried for the camera Marcus had broken, for the money he'd found, for the bruises on her wrist that would take a week to fade, for the tracking app he was installing on her phone right now, probably adding another chain to the invisible prison he'd built around her. She cried for the woman she used to be, the one who'd dreamed of flying around the world, seeing everything, being free. "Whoever hurt you will never fly again." The voice came from behind her, quiet and absolutely certain. Leah's eyes flew open, meeting the reflection in the mirror. Dante Morelli stood in the doorway, his tall frame filling the space, his dark eyes fixed on her tear-stained face with an expression she couldn't quite read. Not pity, something darker, something dangerous. She spun around, wiping frantically at her face. Mr. Morelli, I'm sorry. The lounge is for crew only. I forgot my tablet, he said. But they both knew it was a lie. His hands were empty. He'd come back on purpose. Leah felt exposed, vulnerable, caught in her moment of complete breakdown. I'm fine, really, you don't have to lie to me. He took a single step into the room, and despite everything, despite her fear and her tears, Leah didn't feel threatened. His presence was commanding, yes, but not menacing. I saw the bruises when I caught your arm. I saw how you flinched. He paused, his jaw tightening. I saw everything you were hiding behind that smile. Shame washed over her, hot and suffocating. It's not what you think. No, he tilted his head slightly. What do I think? That I'm weak, that I'm stupid, I think, he interrupted quietly, that someone has been hurting you. And I think you've been very brave for a very long time, but bravery has a breaking point. The gentleness in his voice undid something in her chest. Fresh tears spilled over, and she turned back to the mirror, unable to look at him while she fell apart. I can't, she whispered. You don't understand. I can't. Just tell me who. It wasn't a request. It was stated with the calm certainty of someone used to getting answers. Why? Leah's voice cracked. Why do you even care? You're just a passenger. You don't know me. In the mirror, she watched him move closer, stopping a few feet behind her. Close enough to be real, far enough to be safe. I know what it looks like when someone is trapped, he said quietly. I know what it looks like when someone is afraid to go home. I know what it looks like when someone smiles with everything except their eyes. His gaze held hers in the reflection. And I know what it looks like when someone is planning an escape with $300 and no idea where to go. Leah's breath caught. How could he know that? How could he see so much? Whoever hurt you, Dante continued, his voice dropping to something dark and absolute, will never fly again. I promise you that. There was something in the way he said it, a certainty that went beyond mere words. It should have frightened her, that edge of menace in his tone. Instead, it made her feel something she hadn't felt in 2 years. Say, you can't promise that, she whispered. Watch me. He pulled something from his pocket and placed it on the counter beside the sink. A business card, simple black with white embossed lettering, just a name, Dante Morelli, and a phone number. Nothing else. When you're ready to tell me who, he said, his eyes still locked on hers in the mirror. Not if. When. He paused at the door, his hand on the frame. And Leah, you're not weak. You're not stupid. You're a survivor. Don't forget that. Then he was gone, the door closing softly behind him. Leah stood frozen, staring at her reflection, at the tears on her cheeks, at the business card on the counter, at the woman in the mirror who was both a stranger and herself. Her phone buzzed again. I'm coming to the airport. Don't leave until I get there. Marcus. Of course. She picked up the card, turning it over in her trembling fingers. Just a name and a number. No explanation, no promises except the one he'd already made. Whoever hurt you will never fly again. Leah looked at herself one more time, at the bruises hidden beneath her sleeves, at the fear hidden behind her eyes, at the life hidden behind her smile. Then she tucked the card into her pocket, right next to her broken dreams and her secret savings, and walked out of the lounge. She didn't know who Dante Morelli really was. She didn't know why he'd offered to help. She didn't know if she'd ever be brave enough to use that number. But for the first time in 2 years, she knew something with absolute certainty. She couldn't keep flying like this, trapped in someone else's sky, forever. Tomorrow she had another flight, back to New York, back to Marcus, back to the apartment that felt like a cage and the life that felt like slow suffocation. But in her pocket, pressed against her heart, was a card that felt like possibility. And sometimes, possibility was enough to keep breathing. The Miami sunrise broke through the hotel curtains like an unwelcome guest, painting Leah's temporary sanctuary in shades of gold and regret. She'd barely slept, her mind replaying the encounter with Dante Morelli on an endless loop, her fingers repeatedly finding the business card she'd tucked under her pillow like a talisman. Her phone sat on the nightstand, dark and silent. She'd turned it off after the 47th call from Marcus, unable to bear the vibration of his increasingly frantic messages, but she could feel its presence anyway. A ticking bomb waiting to explode the moment she powered it back on. The crew hotel was standard issue. Generic beige walls, forgettable artwork, the kind of anonymous comfort designed for people just passing through. Leah had stayed in dozens just like it over the years, but this morning it felt different. This morning, for the first time, she'd woken up without immediately checking her phone to see what mood Marcus was in, what he needed, what she'd done wrong in her sleep somehow. The freedom of it terrified her. She pulled herself out of bed at 7, her body moving through the familiar routine on autopilot. Shower, uniform, makeup carefully applied to hide the evidence of last night's tears. By the time she made it down to the hotel restaurant for the crew breakfast, she looked exactly like she always did. Professional, composed, completely fine. Jessica was already there, nursing a coffee and scrolling through her phone. She looked up when Leah approached, her expression shifting from casual to concerned in a heartbeat. Hey, hun, feeling better? Leah slid into the booth across from her, reaching for the coffee pot like a lifeline. I'm okay. Just tired. Jessica studied her over the rim of her mug, and Leah could practically see the questions forming. But Jessica had been flying long enough to know when to push and when to let things breathe. We've got the 2 p.m. back to JFK. You working economy today? Yeah, I switched with David. He wanted first class for the tips. Smart man. Jessica paused and set her mug down with deliberate care. Leah. About last night. The bruise I saw. I bruise easily, Leah said automatically. The lie smooth as glass after 2 years of practice. Bumped into the galley cart during that turbulence. Jessica's eyes said she didn't believe a word, but her mouth stayed shut. Instead, she pulled out her phone and scrolled for a moment before turning it toward Leah. This is going to sound crazy, but you know that passenger from last night? The one in 2A who looked at you like he could see straight into your soul? Leah's coffee cup froze halfway to her lips. What about him? My boyfriend Steve mentioned that name once. Dante Morelli. Jessica's voice dropped to barely above a whisper, her eyes darting around the restaurant even though they were alone in their corner. Steve works security at one of the high-end clubs in South Beach. He said that name came up during a briefing about people to pay special attention to. Special attention? The kind where you don't ask questions, you don't make them wait, and you definitely don't forget their face. Jessica leaned in closer. Steve said the guys connected, Leah, like really connected. Import-export business. Heavy involvement in international interests. That's code for organized crime. Leah's throat went dry. She thought about Dante's stillness, his absolute certainty when he'd made that promise. Whoever hurt you will never fly again. It hadn't sounded like bravado. It had sounded like fact. Why are you telling me this? Leah asked quietly. Jessica reached across the table, covering Leah's hand with her own. Because I saw how he looked at you, and I saw that business card fall out of your pocket when you were getting your bag last night. I don't know what's going on with you, hun, but I know desperation when I see it. And I know that sometimes when we're desperate, we make choices we wouldn't normally make. I wasn't planning on calling him, weren't you? Jessica squeezed her hand gently. Just be careful. Men like that, they don't do things out of the goodness of their hearts. There's always a price. After Jessica left to take a call from her boyfriend, Leah sat alone with her coffee and her thoughts. She pulled out Dante's card, studying it in the morning light. Just a name and a number. No business listed, no address, nothing to indicate who or what he really was. She opened her phone's browser and typed carefully, Dante Morelli. The results were frustratingly vague. A few mentions in society pages, charity galas, art auctions, real estate acquisitions. Photos showed a man who looked exactly as he had on the plane. Dark suit, darker eyes, an air of controlled power. There were references to Morelli import-export, to international shipping interests, to a family with deep roots in both New York and Sicily. Nothing concrete, nothing illegal, but also nothing reassuring. She clicked on an image from a fundraiser at the Metropolitan Museum of Art. Dante stood next to an older man with silver hair and the same dark, assessing eyes. The caption read, Dante Morelli, with Uncle Giovanni Morelli at annual arts benefit. Leah zoomed in on Giovanni Morelli's face and felt a chill run down her spine. This was a man who commanded rooms without saying a word, who made decisions that moved mountains, and Dante stood beside him with the easy confidence of someone who belonged in that world. What had she almost gotten herself into? Her phone buzzed with an incoming text. Her heart seized before she saw it was from the airline's crew scheduling system. Not Marcus. Flight 448 JFK. MIA departure 14. Confirm. She had 4 hours before she had to be back at the airport. 4 hours before she had to return to New York. 4 hours before she had to face Marcus. The thought of seeing him again made her stomach twist into knots. He'd be angry about the ignored calls. He'd have installed that tracking app by now. He'd want explanations, apologies, reassurances that she wasn't planning to leave him, and she'd give them because that's what she always did, because it was easier than fighting, because she was tired and scared and had nowhere else to go. Except her fingers traced the embossed lettering on Dante's card. When you're ready to tell me who, not if, when. The assumption in those words should have annoyed her. Instead, it felt like someone had finally seen the truth she'd been hiding from everyone, including herself. She wasn't going to stay with Marcus forever. She couldn't. The question wasn't if she would leave, but when, and whether she'd survive the leaving. Before she could second-guess herself, Leah opened her messages and typed in the number from the card. How did you know? She stared at the message for a full minute before her thumb hovered over the send button. This was insane. She didn't know this man. He was apparently involved in organized crime. He was dangerous in ways she couldn't even fully comprehend, but he'd seen her, really seen her, and he'd offered help when she had none. She hit send. The response came within 30 seconds. I know what hunted eyes look like. I know what it means when someone smiles with everything but their soul. I know because I've seen it before. Leah's breath caught. Another message appeared. Are you safe right now? She looked around the empty hotel restaurant, at the sunshine streaming through the windows, at her coffee growing cold on the table. For now, I have a flight back to New York at 2, and then I go home. To him, it wasn't a question. Yes, the typing indicator appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Finally, you don't have to. Leah's hands shook as she typed back. I don't have anywhere else to go. I can't afford my own place. All my money is in our joint account. I don't have family here. I don't have options. You have options. You just don't see them yet. Easy for you to say. Probably. But that doesn't make it less true. She should stop this. She should delete the messages, throw away the card, go back to her life and pretend last night never happened. Instead, she typed, Jessica told me about you, what you really do, and I don't know if I should be more scared of you or of going home. The response took longer this time. When it came, it was just one line. The difference is, I'd never make you afraid to leave. Leah felt tears pricking at her eyes again. God, when had she become this person? This woman who cried at kind words from dangerous strangers because she couldn't remember the last time someone had shown her basic human decency. I need to think, she typed. Take your time. The offer stands. When you're ready. She wanted to ask what the offer actually was. She wanted to demand guarantees, explanations, some kind of proof that this wasn't just another trap with prettier packaging. Instead, she just typed, thank you. For what? For seeing me. The response was immediate. You're hard to miss, Leah. She logged out before she could read too much into those words, before she could let hope take root in the wasteland Marcus had made of her heart. The flight back to New York was turbulent in ways that had nothing to do with weather. Leah worked the economy cabin, serving drinks and meals to passengers who complained about legroom and delayed departures. Her mind 1,000 miles away. Every time she checked her phone during the flight, there were more messages from Marcus. The tone had shifted from angry to worried to manipulative. Baby, please. I'm scared something happened to you. I called the airline. They said you're working the Miami flight. Why won't you answer me? I know I messed up this morning. I was just scared of losing you. You know how much I love you. Please don't punish me by ignoring me. It's killing me. I threw away the tracking app. I don't need it. I trust you. That last one almost made her laugh. He'd thrown away the app after he'd already installed it, no doubt. After he'd already established that he could and would monitor her every move. By the time the plane touched down at JFK at 6:30 p.m., Leah's nerves were stretched to breaking. She knew Marcus would be waiting. He always was when she'd upset him, needing the immediate gratification of her apology, her submission, her return to the role of grateful girlfriend. She was right. He stood outside the employee exit, leaning against his black Honda Civic, arms crossed. Even from a distance, she could read the tension in his shoulders, the tight set of his jaw. There's my girl, he called out as she approached, his voice too loud, too jovial. Had me worried sick, babe. My phone died, Leah lied smoothly, pulling her roller bag behind her. I forgot my charger for a whole day. His smile didn't reach his eyes as he pushed off from the car and moved toward her. That's not like you, Leah. You're usually so responsible. I'm sorry, it was a crazy turnaround. He closed the distance between them, and Leah forced herself not to step back, not to flinch when he reached for her. His hand wrapped around her arm, the same bruised wrist, and squeezed just hard enough to hurt. Don't ever do that to me again, he said quietly, his fingers digging in. Do you understand? I thought something had happened. I almost called the police. Marcus, you're hurting me. Am I? He looked down at his hand as if surprised to find it there, then released her with a little laugh. Sorry, babe. Just so relieved you're okay. Come on, let's get you home. Actually, I can take the air train. Don't be ridiculous. I drove all the way out here. His hand found the small of her back, guiding her firmly toward the car. Besides, we need to talk. Those 4 words, we need to talk, sent ice through her veins. The drive back to Brooklyn was tense. Marcus kept up a steady stream of conversation, asking about her flights, her layover, whether she'd eaten, surface-level questions that felt like interrogation. So who'd you room with in Miami? Jessica. She's the one whose boyfriend works security, right? I think so. You two close? We're friendly. She ever talked to you about leaving her boyfriend? The question was so specific, so pointed that Leah's hands clenched in her lap. No, why would she? Just wondering. You know how women are, always in each other's ears about how they deserve better, how they should leave, how they're too good for their men. He glanced at her, his expression unreadable in the darkened car. Nobody's been putting ideas in your head, have they, Leah? No. Good, because you know I only want what's best for us. For you. When they arrived at her apartment, when had she stopped thinking of it as her apartment and started thinking of it as their prison? Leah noticed immediately that something was different. Marcus's clothes were in her closet, his toiletries were in her bathroom, his shoes were by the door, his laptop on her kitchen table, his presence stamped over every inch of space that used to be hers alone. What is all this? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. I moved in. He said it so casually, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. My lease was up anyway, and we spend so much time together. Makes sense, right? You didn't ask me. Didn't think I needed to. We're practically living together anyway. He moved to the kitchen, opening their refrigerator. I picked up groceries. That thing you like. The raspberry yogurt. See? I take care of you. Leah felt the walls closing in, the air growing thin. He'd taken her keys. She saw them now, hanging on his keychain on the counter. He'd moved into her space without permission. He'd made himself at home in her life like a virus, spreading and consuming until there was nothing left that was just hers. I need to shower, she managed, grabbing her overnight bag and fleeing to the bathroom. She locked the door, the only lock in the apartment, and slid down to sit on the cold tile floor, her bag clutched to her chest. This was it. This was her life now. Marcus in her apartment, in her space, in her every breath. No escape, no privacy. No hope. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. Another message from Marcus, even though he was 20 feet away on the other side of the door. Don't stay in there too long, babe. I missed you. Want to spend time with you? She silenced the phone and pulled out Dante's card, now worn at the edges from being carried in her pocket. Touched, considered, almost thrown away a dozen times. With shaking fingers, she typed a new message. He moved into my apartment without asking. He took my spare keys. He's been tracking my phone. I don't know what to do. The response came within a minute. Address? Leah stared at that single word. This was it, the moment of choice. She could give Dante her address and step into the unknown, or she could delete his number and learn to live with the choice she'd already made by staying with Marcus. Why do you want to help me? She typed instead. Because someone should have helped my mother, and no one did. The honesty of it cracked something in her chest. She typed her address before she could stop herself, then added, but I can't just leave. I don't have money. I don't have anywhere to go, and he'll find me. He always finds me when I try to put distance between us. Do you trust me? I don't know you. Fair. Do you trust yourself? That question hit differently. Did she trust herself? Her own judgment, her own strength, her own ability to survive outside of Marcus's control? She thought about the woman she'd been 5 years ago, fresh out of college with a new job and the whole world ahead of her. That woman had trusted herself. That woman had been brave. I used to, she typed. Then trust her. The woman you used to be. She's still in there. What if she's not? She is. I saw her last night. Behind the tears and the fear, I saw her. She's just waiting for permission to come back. Leah closed her eyes, pressing her forehead against her knees. Outside the door, she could hear Marcus moving around the apartment, rearranging her life to suit his needs. I have another flight tomorrow night, she typed. He'll be at work during the day. Give me the time. I'll send someone to help you pack. Send someone? Who? My sister. Her name is Gianna. She's been where you are. She'll understand. A knock on the bathroom door made Leah jump. Babe, you fall asleep in there? Marcus's voice was light, teasing, but she could hear the edge underneath. Come on out. I ordered Thai food, your favorite. Just a minute, she called back, her voice surprisingly steady. She looked at the message thread with Dante, then at the bathroom door, then back at the phone. Tomorrow, 10 a.m. I'll text you the details. You won't regret this. I already do. She typed honestly, but I'm doing it anyway. That's what courage looks like. See you tomorrow, Leah. She deleted the message thread, turned on the shower to cover the sound, and sat on the floor for another 10 minutes, breathing, centering, preparing. When she finally emerged, Marcus was waiting with Thai food and apologies, with gentle touches and promises that tomorrow would be better, that they'd be better together. And Leah smiled and nodded and ate her pad Thai, while in her pocket, a business card and a decision burned like a promise. Tomorrow she would meet Dante's sister. Tomorrow she would start packing. Tomorrow she would choose the woman she used to be over the ghost she'd become. But tonight she would survive, like she always did. One more night in the cage. One more night of pretending. One more night until freedom, or until everything fell apart. Either way, she was done waiting for permission to save herself. The morning came too slowly and too fast all at once. Leah had barely slept, lying rigid beside Marcus in what used to be her bed, now invaded by his presence, his scent, his suffocating assumption of ownership. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Dante's dark gaze in the mirror, heard his quiet promise, felt the weight of the choice she'd made in a locked bathroom with shaking hands. At 6:30 a.m., Marcus's alarm shattered the fragile silence. He rolled over, kissing her shoulder in that possessive way that made her skin crawl. Morning, beautiful. Sleep well? It was easier than lying outright. He stretched, his arm draping across her waist, pinning her down. I've got that meeting with the investors today. Probably won't be back until 6, maybe 7. His hand slid lower. Proprietary. You working today? Evening flight, 7 p.m. departure to Chicago. Perfect. Maybe we can have dinner before you go. I'll cook. He kissed her neck, and Leah forced herself not to recoil. Love you, babe. Love you too, she whispered, the words ash in her mouth. She waited until she heard the apartment door close, then his footsteps fade down the hallway before she moved. Even then, she counted to 60, terrified he'd come back, that he'd forgotten something, that he'd somehow sense what she was planning. Silence. She was alone. Leah threw off the covers and grabbed her phone with trembling fingers. 7:04 a.m. She had maybe 3 hours before she needed to be ready, before Dante's sister arrived, before she did something that felt simultaneously like salvation and suicide. She pulled up Dante's number and typed quickly. He just left for work. I have until maybe 5 p.m. to be safe. After that, the response came within seconds. Gianna will be there at 10. Pack light. Essentials only. Clothes, documents, medications, anything irreplaceable. Nothing that will be obviously missing at first glance. Where am I going? Somewhere safe. I'll explain when I see you. When will I see you? Today, after you're settled. Leah's heart hammered against her ribs. This was real. This was actually happening. What if he comes back early? What if he tracks my phone? Turn off location services now. Tell anyone who asks that your phone is acting up. And Leah, yes, Gianna carries. If he shows up, she knows how to handle it. Carries, as in a gun. Jesus Christ, what was she getting herself into? But the alternative was staying. And staying meant dying by inches, disappearing piece by piece until there was nothing left of the woman she used to be. Leah moved through the apartment like a thief in her own home, pulling clothes from drawers Marcus had reorganized, gathering toiletries from a bathroom he'd claimed half of, finding important documents in a desk he'd started using for his own work, her passport, her birth certificate, her grandmother's wedding ring that she'd hidden in a tampon box because Marcus never looked there, the few photos she had left of her family, her mother who'd died when Leah was 12, her father who'd checked out emotionally long before the heart attack took him 3 years ago. She was truly truly alone in the world. No siblings, no close family, just Marcus, who'd positioned himself as her everything, her only support, her sole reason for existing. By 9:30, she had 2 small bags packed and hidden in her bedroom closet. To anyone glancing around the apartment, nothing looked different. Her toothbrush was still in the holder, her robe still hung on the bathroom door, her favorite coffee mug still sat in the dish rack. But the important things, the pieces of herself she couldn't afford to lose, were ready to go. At 9:58 a.m., her phone buzzed. Downstairs, black Mercedes SUV. Leah peered through the window. A sleek black SUV idled at the curb, tinted windows revealing nothing. As she watched, the driver's door opened and a woman stepped out. Gianna Morelli was nothing like Leah had expected. She'd imagined someone hard, masculine, intimidating. Instead, Gianna was elegant in dark jeans and a leather jacket, her dark hair pulled back in a sleek ponytail, oversized sunglasses hiding her eyes. She looked like she belonged in a fashion magazine, not outside a Brooklyn walk-up helping a stranger escape. Leah's phone buzzed again. That's her. She doesn't bite much. Despite everything, Leah almost smiled. She grabbed the bags from the closet, took one last look at the apartment that had been her prison, and headed downstairs. Gianna was leaning against the SUV when Leah emerged, and she lowered her sunglasses as Leah approached, revealing eyes the same dark brown as Dante's, just as observant, just as knowing. Leah? Her voice was warm, a slight accent coloring the edges. Yes, I'm Gianna, Dante's sister. She pushed off from the car and reached for one of Leah's bags. We need to move quickly. Is there anything else you need from inside? No. This is everything that matters. Gianna studied her for a moment, and something shifted in her expression. Recognition, understanding, sisterhood and survival. Okay then, let's get you somewhere safe. The SUV's interior was all black leather and tinted windows. A man sat in the driver's seat, mid-40s, stocky build, kind eyes. This is Marco, Gianna said as they pulled into traffic. He works for my brother, former NYPD, Detective Division. He's good people. Marco met Leah's eyes in the rearview mirror and nodded. Ma'am, just Leah. She managed. Leah, he agreed. They drove in silence for a few minutes, weaving through Brooklyn traffic toward the bridge. Leah watched her neighborhood disappear through the tinted windows, each block taking her further from everything familiar, everything safe, everything that had been slowly killing her. Where are we going? She finally asked. Manhattan, Gianna said. Dante has a place there. Secure building, 24-hour doorman, cameras on every floor. You'll have your own space, your own key. No one comes in without your permission. I can't afford Manhattan. You're not paying. I can't accept. Leah. Gianna turned in her seat to face her fully. Let me tell you something about my brother. He doesn't do things halfway. When he decides someone needs protecting, he protects them. Completely. No half measures. But why? He doesn't know me. Gianna's expression softened. Our mother was like you. Beautiful, kind, trapped with a man who hurt her. Our father, Dante's father, my stepfather, he was a monster. Controlled everything she did, everyone she saw. Beat her when she stepped out of line, which was basically whenever he felt like it. She paused, her jaw tightening. Dante was 10 when he tried to stop it the first time, put himself between them. Our father broke his arm in 2 places. Leah felt sick. Gianna, he spent his whole life wishing he'd been big enough, strong enough, powerful enough to save her. She died when he was 17. Aneurysm, but we both know it wasn't the aneurysm that killed her. It was years of fear and stress and violence that her body couldn't survive anymore. Gianna reached over and took Leah's hand. So when he sees a woman in trouble, especially a woman being hurt by a man who's supposed to love her, he doesn't hesitate. He can't. It's his way of saving her. Our mother. Himself. All of it. Leah felt tears burning in her eyes. I'm not your mother. No, but you could be free, and maybe that's enough. They crossed into Manhattan, the skyline rising around them like a promise. The SUV turned onto a tree-lined street in the Upper East Side, pulling up in front of a pre-war building with an elegant green awning. This is it, Gianna said. Home sweet home. For now, anyway. The doorman, an older man with silver hair and sharp eyes, greeted Gianna by name and smiled warmly at Leah. Miss Morelli, welcome back. And you must be Miss Morgan. Mr. Morelli said to expect you. Thank you, Thomas, Gianna said smoothly. The elevator was the old-fashioned kind, all polished brass and mirrors. Leah watched herself ascend, this woman in jeans and a hoodie with everything she owned in 2 small bags, entering a world so far removed from her Brooklyn studio that it might as well have been another planet. The penthouse occupied the entire top floor. Gianna unlocked the door and stepped aside, letting Leah enter first. The apartment was stunning. Floor-to-ceiling windows offering views of Central Park, modern furniture in grays and blacks, art on the walls that looked original and expensive. But despite the luxury, it didn't feel cold. There were books on shelves, photos in frames, a throw blanket draped over the leather couch. Someone lived here, someone real. Dante's at his office, Gianna explained, setting Leah's bags down. He'll be here around 6, but let me show you your space. The guest suite was down a hallway, separated from the main living areas by a heavy door that Gianna demonstrated could be locked from the inside. The room itself was beautiful. A queen bed with white linens, a private bathroom, a small sitting area with its own window overlooking the city. This is yours for as long as you need it, Gianna said. That door locks. Dante won't come in without knocking. Neither will anyone else. This is your sanctuary. Leah turned slowly, taking it all in. I don't understand. What does he want from me? Nothing. Everyone wants something. Not Dante. Not for this. Gianna perched on the edge of the bed. Look, I know this is scary. I know accepting help from a man you barely know, especially a man in my brother's line of work, feels dangerous. But I'm going to be honest with you. The only thing Dante wants is for you to be safe. That's it. No strings, no expectations, no debt. And if I want to leave, then you leave. We'll help you find your own place, help you with deposits, whatever you need. This isn't a prison, Leah. It's a bridge, a way to get from where you were to where you want to be. Leah sank down into the chair by the window, her legs suddenly unable to hold her weight. I don't know where I want to be. I just know I couldn't stay there anymore. That's a start, Gianna said gently. She pulled out her phone and tapped something, then showed Leah the screen. This is my number. You call me anytime, day or night. If you're scared, if you need something, if you just want to talk to someone who gets it. She paused. I was married once to a man who loved me so much he nearly killed me. Dante helped me get out, helped me build a new life, so I know what you're feeling right now. Grateful and terrified and guilty and free all at once. How did you stop feeling guilty? Honestly? Therapy, lots of therapy, which Dante has already set up for you if you want it. Dr. Sarah Chen, she's incredible, specializes in domestic violence survivors, but no pressure. Everything is your choice now. That's the whole point. A buzzing sound made them both look at Leah's phone. Marcus calling. Leah stared at the screen, her body going rigid. You don't have to answer, Gianna said quietly. He'll keep calling. Let him. The phone buzzed again, then again. Marcus's face filled the screen, a photo from their early days when she'd still thought love was supposed to hurt a little, that jealousy meant caring, that control was the same as protection. What if he comes looking for me? Then he'll deal with building security. Then Marco, then eventually Dante. And trust me, he won't get past any of them. The phone finally stopped buzzing. 10 seconds later, a text appeared. Where are you? Your location is off. Turn it back on. Now. Then another. Leah, I'm not playing. Turn on your location or I'm calling the police. And another. You're scaring me. Please just let me know you're okay. The manipulation was so textbook that Leah almost laughed. Almost. Gianna read over her shoulder and shook her head. Classic. Threat, then concern, then guilt. They all use the same playbook. She stood up. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to ignore those messages. Then we're going to order lunch. There's an amazing Thai place that delivers. Then we're going to talk about next steps. Restraining order, legal protections, how to handle work, all of it. But first, lunch, because you need to eat, and I'm starving. I have a flight tonight at 7. Can you call in sick? I've never called in sick. Good. Then they'll believe you. Call them. Tell them you've got food poisoning or the flu or whatever. You're not going back to JFK today, Leah. Not where he knows to find you. The thought of calling in, of breaking her perfect attendance record felt wrong, but the thought of going to the airport, of Marcus waiting outside the employee entrance, of being forced into his car, into his apartment, back into his life, that felt like death. Leah picked up her phone and dialed crew scheduling. 20 minutes later, she'd officially called in sick for the first time in 5 years. The supervisor had been understanding, even concerned. You never call out, Leah. You must really be feeling awful. Take care of yourself. If only she knew. Lunch arrived in elegant containers. Pad thai, green curry, spring rolls. Gianna laid it all out on the dining room table like they were old friends. Like this was normal. Like Leah hadn't just blown up her entire life. So, Gianna said, passing Leah a plate. Tell me about him, Marcus. How'd you meet? And slowly, hesitantly at first, then with gathering momentum, Leah told her. The whirlwind beginning, the gradual isolation. The first time he'd grabbed her arm too hard and then apologized so sweetly she'd convinced herself it was an accident. The escalation, the control. The morning he'd broken her camera and something inside her had finally cracked. Gianna listened without interrupting, without judging, her dark eyes understanding every word Leah didn't say. How long ago did you start planning to leave? She asked when Leah finally fell silent. 6 months, maybe longer. I started hiding money. $20 here, $40 there, picking up extra flights. I thought if I could just save enough I could afford a deposit on my own place. Could disappear before he noticed I was gone. But he noticed. He always notices. He went through my purse yesterday morning, found the money I'd been saving. $300. That's what started it. That's why you were crying. On the plane, that's why I was crying. Gianna reached across the table and squeezed her hand. You're safe now. I know it doesn't feel like it yet. I know you're waiting for the other shoe to drop, but you're safe until he finds me. He won't. You don't know Marcus. He doesn't give up. He doesn't let go. I'm his, and he'll do whatever it takes to get me back. Then we'll do whatever it takes to keep you safe. Gianna's voice hardened. That's what the Morelli family does, Leah. We protect our own, and like it or not, you're ours now. The words should have felt threatening. Instead, they felt like the first deep breath she'd taken in 2 years. They spent the afternoon planning. Gianna pulled out a laptop and started making lists. Lawyers who specialized in restraining orders, security protocols for Leah's workplace, new routes and schedules to request, ways to ensure Marcus couldn't track her movements. We'll get you a new phone tomorrow, Gianna said, typing rapidly. New number. Only give it to people you absolutely trust. Your supervisor at work? Me? Dante? Marco? That's it. What about my old number? Keep the phone, but leave it here. We'll monitor the messages, build a case for the restraining order, every threat, every manipulation, every attempt to control you. It all becomes evidence. At 5:47 p.m., Leah's phone lit up with another call from Marcus. She'd stopped counting how many times he'd tried to reach her. The voicemails had evolved from concerned to angry to desperate to threatening and back to concerned in a predictable cycle. "I should answer," Leah said, her hand hovering over the phone. "Just to tell him I'm okay, that I'm not dead in a ditch somewhere." "No," Gianna said firmly. "The moment you answer, you're giving him power again. You're showing him that if he just persists long enough, you'll cave. Don't do it." "But what if he really does call the police? What if he files a missing persons report? Then the police will investigate, find that you're a grown woman who chose to leave an abusive situation, and they'll close the case." "You're not missing, Leah. You left. There's a difference." The apartment door opened and both women looked up. Dante Morelli stood in the entrance, still in his work clothes, charcoal suit, black tie loosened at the throat. His eyes found Leah immediately, assessing, cataloging, ensuring she was whole. "Leah," he said, his voice the same low, controlled tone from the airplane. "You came. I didn't think I had a choice," she admitted. "You always have a choice." He set down his briefcase and moved further into the room but stopped at a respectful distance. "I'm glad you chose this one." Gianna stood up, gathering the lunch containers. "I'll give you two some privacy. Leah, remember, anything you need, call me." She kissed her brother's cheek as she passed. "Be good. She's been through enough without you going all mafia boss on her." "I'm always good," Dante replied, but there was warmth in his voice, affection for his sister evident. After Gianna left, silence settled over the apartment. Leah stood awkwardly by the dining table, unsure what to do, what to say, how to act in this strange new world. "Sit," Dante said gently, gesturing to the couch. "Please, you look like you're about to bolt." "I feel like I'm about to bolt," Leah admitted, but she sat anyway. Dante poured 2 glasses of water from a pitcher on the side table and handed her one before settling into the chair across from her. Again, that careful distance, that awareness of her space, her comfort, her boundaries. "Questions," he said simply. "You must have 1,000. Ask them." "Who are you?" "Really complicated question." "Short answer, I'm a businessman with interests in import-export, real estate, international shipping." "Longer answer, my family has connections that aren't always legal. We operate in gray areas. We have power and influence that comes from generations of strategic relationship building." "You're in the Mafia." He didn't flinch from the word. "My uncle is. I'm his heir apparent, though I've been working to move our legitimate businesses away from the less legal enterprises. It's a slow process. Generations of tradition don't change overnight. And you expect me to just accept that? To live in the home of a criminal?" "No," Dante said calmly. "I expect you to make an informed choice. I'm telling you exactly who and what I am so you can decide whether you feel safe here or whether you'd prefer us to help you find somewhere else." The honesty was disarming. "Why are you helping me? Gianna tell you about our mother?" "Yes." "Then you know why." He leaned forward, elbows on his knees, his dark eyes intense. "I was too young to save her. Too small, too weak, too powerless. I'm not anymore. So when I see a woman who's being hurt, who needs help, I do what I couldn't do then. I help." "That's not healthy," Leah said quietly. "Trying to save everyone to make up for the one person you couldn't save." "Probably not, but it's what I've got." He smiled slightly, but there was pain in it. "Besides, I'm not trying to save you, Leah. You were already saving yourself. I'm just providing resources. Resources like this apartment, like security, like making Marcus's life hell." Dante's expression shifted, something dangerous flickering in his eyes. "What do you know about that?" "I can guess. Men like you don't let things go. You said whoever hurt me would never fly again. I'm assuming you meant that literally." "I did. Marcus Delaney has been flagged in every airline database as a security risk. He'll never make it past TSA again. He's also been having some trouble at work. Seems his employer got an anonymous tip about financial irregularities, and his landlord suddenly needs to renovate his building, so his lease won't be renewed." Leah should have been horrified. Instead, she felt a fierce satisfaction that scared her a little. "You're destroying his life. I'm creating consequences for his actions. There's a difference, is there?" She stood up, agitated now. "How is what you're doing any different from what he did? You're controlling his life, making decisions for him, taking away his choices." "The difference," Dante said, standing as well but not moving closer, "is that Marcus made choices that hurt you. I'm making choices that protect you. But if you want me to stop, if you think it's too much, I will. Right now, one word from you, and I'll pull back everything." Leah stared at him, this powerful, dangerous man who was offering her complete control over his actions. It was more power than she'd had in 2 years. "I don't know what I want," she admitted. "Part of me wants him to suffer like he made me suffer. Part of me feels guilty for even thinking that. Part of me is terrified he'll find a way to hurt me worse. I'm a mess, Dante. I don't know who I am anymore without someone telling me." "Then figure it out," he said simply. "That's what this space is for. To figure out who you are when no one's controlling you, hurting you, defining you. Take all the time you need. And you want nothing in return? I want you to be safe. I want you to remember how to smile with your eyes, not just your mouth. I want you to stop looking over your shoulder every 5 seconds. He paused. "But I'm not stupid enough to think that makes me a good man. I'm still in the business I'm in. I still do things that would horrify you. I'm offering you a cage with prettier bars, Leah. I won't pretend otherwise. At least you're honest. I'm always honest. It's easier than remembering lies. Leah's phone buzzed on the table. Marcus again. The 50th call. The 100th. She'd lost count. Dante's jaw tightened. Let me handle him. How? A conversation, man to man, where I explain very clearly what will happen if he continues to contact you, come near you, or make any attempt to find you. He won't listen. He will. I can be very persuasive. You mean threatening? I mean persuasive. Dante picked up her phone, staring at Marcus's number on the screen. 1 call. 5 minutes. He'll understand. And if he doesn't, then I'll make sure he does. Leah looked at this man who'd inserted himself into her life with promises of protection and threats of violence, who'd given her a sanctuary in his home, who saw through every mask she wore and didn't flinch from the broken woman underneath. Okay, she whispered. Okay. Dante nodded once, then answered the phone. This is Dante Morelli. Leah can't come to the phone right now. In fact, she won't be coming to the phone for you ever again. Leah walked to the window while he spoke, looking out at Manhattan stretched below her like a glittering promise. Behind her, she could hear Dante's voice, low and calm and absolutely terrifying, as he explained to Marcus exactly why he would never see Leah again, never touch her again, never hurt her again. And for the first time in 2 years, Leah felt something that wasn't fear. She felt hope. 3 weeks had passed since Leah walked out of her Brooklyn apartment with 2 small bags and into a life she never could have imagined. The morning light filtered through the guest suite windows, softer now that October had settled over New York with its golden edges and cool breath. Leah woke naturally for the first time in years. No alarm, no Marcus shaking her awake to ask why she was still sleeping. No anxiety twisting her stomach before her eyes even opened. She'd returned to work after that first week, though everything had changed. Different routes, international now. Paris and London and Rome instead of domestic shuttle flights. Different schedule. Dante had called in a favor apparently, though he'd refused to elaborate. Different life. The restraining order had been filed within 48 hours of her moving into the penthouse. Marcus had violated it twice. Once showing up at JFK's employee entrance, once trying to board one of her flights using a fake name. Both times airport security had intervened before he'd gotten within 50 feet of her. Both times Marco had been there as backup, a silent presence that made Leah feel simultaneously protected and troubled by how much protection she apparently needed. The third time Marcus had tried anything, he'd been arrested. Dante had made sure the charges stuck. Now, Leah padded out of her suite in yoga pants and an oversized sweater, her hair loose around her shoulders. The penthouse was quiet. Dante had already left for his office, his morning coffee cup rinsed and placed in the dishwasher, a note left on the counter. Breakfast in the warming drawer. Don't forget, Dr. Chen at 2 p.m. D-therapy. Right. Her third session this week. Leah opened the warming drawer to find perfectly poached eggs on toast, fresh fruit, orange juice in a small glass pitcher. Dante's housekeeper, Maria, came 3 times a week, but Dante himself had been making breakfast on the days Maria wasn't there. He'd leave it warming for Leah, never asking if she wanted it, never demanding gratitude, just quietly ensuring she ate. It was the smallest thing, and yet it felt monumental. Marcus had controlled what she ate, when she ate, criticized her portions and her choices. Dante just made sure food was available and let her decide everything else. Her phone buzzed, the new one Gianna had gotten her, with a number only 6 people knew. A text from Jessica. Coffee before your flight tomorrow? Need to catch up. Miss your face. Leah smiled and typed back. 11 a.m. at the usual place? Perfect. Bring stories. You've been MIA and I'm dying for details. The usual place was a coffee shop near the Crew Hotel in Queens. Leah had been careful about maintaining her friendships, not letting her new circumstances isolate her the way Marcus had. Dr. Chen had stressed the importance of connection, of building a life that wasn't dependent on any one person, no matter how helpful they seemed. Even Dante? Leah had asked during their first session. Especially Dante. Dr. Chen had replied gently. What he's offering you is valuable. Safety, resources, time to heal. But you need to build your own foundation. Your own apartment eventually, your own financial independence, your own support network. Otherwise, you're just trading one form of dependency for another. It was advice Leah tried to remember every time she felt herself getting too comfortable in the penthouse, too reliant on Dante's quiet presence in the evenings when they'd somehow fallen into a routine of sharing dinner and conversation. She was halfway through breakfast when her phone rang. Gianna. Morning, sunshine. How's freedom treating you? Leah smiled. Gianna called at least once a day, checking in without being overbearing, offering friendship without conditions. Pretty good. Still feels surreal sometimes. That's normal. Listen, I'm having a thing tonight at my place. Small dinner party. Some people I want you to meet. Other women who've been through similar situations. Nothing heavy, just food and wine and solidarity. You interested? I don't know, Gianna. I'm not really ready for 6 women, including you and me. Ages ranging from 25 to 53. All of them survivors. All of them thriving now. No pressure to share your story if you don't want to. Just come. Eat good food. Remember you're not alone. Gianna paused. And before you ask, no, Dante won't be there. This is a Dante-free zone. Boys not allowed. Despite herself, Leah laughed. Okay, what time? 7. I'll text you the address. And Leah, wear something that makes you feel good, not for anyone else, just for you. After they hung up, Leah found herself standing in front of the closet in her suite. Most of her clothes were still the things she'd grabbed from Brooklyn. Practical, neutral, chosen, because Marcus had approved of them. But tucked in the back were a few pieces Gianna had convinced her to buy during a shopping trip last week. A deep blue silk blouse, black pants that actually fit her properly, a cashmere cardigan in soft gray, clothes she'd chosen, clothes Marcus had never touched. She pulled out the blue blouse, holding it up to the light. When had she last worn something just because she liked it? Dr. Chen's office was in Midtown, a calm space with soft gray walls and comfortable chairs that didn't feel like a therapist's office. Sarah Chen herself was in her 50s, with kind eyes and a no-nonsense approach that Leah had come to appreciate. So, Dr. Chen said, settling into her chair, how was your week? Weird. Good weird, mostly, but weird. Tell me about the weird. Leah described the past few days, the work she'd returned to, the therapy sessions, the dinners with Dante that had become unexpectedly comfortable. I keep waiting for the other shoe to drop, for him to ask for something, demand something, reveal what he really wants from me. And has he? No. That's what's weird. He just exists in the same space. We have dinner sometimes. We talk. He asks about my day. I ask about his, though he's vague about the details of his work, which is probably for the best. She paused. He makes me laugh. I'd forgotten what that felt like. What felt like? Being comfortable with someone, not being afraid that every word, every action, every breath might be the wrong one. Dr. Chen nodded, making a note. That's progress. But I want to make sure you're not confusing safety with something else. Trauma bonding is real, Leah. He helped you escape an abusive situation. That's powerful. It can create feelings that aren't the same as genuine connection. I know, Leah said quietly. I think about that. I wonder if I'm just latching on to him because he saved me. Did he save you? Or did he provide resources while you saved yourself? The question hit differently than Leah expected. Both, maybe. But it's important you remember you're the one who chose to leave. You're the one who packed those bags. You're the one who called for help. Dante provided the means, but you made the choice. Don't give him credit for your courage. Leah felt tears prick her eyes. It doesn't feel like courage. It feels like I just survived. Survival is courage, Leah. Every day you chose to stay alive in that situation was courage. Every moment you didn't give up on yourself was courage. The leaving was just courage in a different direction. After therapy, Leah took the subway to Queens, letting herself get lost in the anonymous crowd, in the freedom of moving through the city without permission, without someone tracking her every step. The coffee shop was busy with the afternoon rush. Jessica was already there, waving from a corner table, her smile bright. There she is, the mysterious disappearing flight attendant. Leah slid into the seat across from her, accepting the latte Jessica had already ordered for her. Sorry, I've been quiet. Quiet, girl, you basically vanished. One day you're calling in sick, the next you're requesting international routes and bidding on completely different schedules. What happened? Leah wrapped her hands around the warm cup, gathering her thoughts. She'd practiced this conversation with Dr. Chen, figuring out what to share, what to keep private. I left Marcus. Jessica's eyes went wide. Oh my God. Finally. Are you okay? Where are you staying? Do you need... I'm okay. Better than okay, actually. I'm staying with a friend. Someone who's helping me get on my feet. The guy from the flight? Jessica leaned forward, her voice dropping. The one in 2A? Dante Morelli? Leah felt her cheeks heat. It's not like that. He's just helping. And I'm just a flight attendant who happens to work for free. Jessica grinned. Leah, that man looked at you like you were the only person on that plane. Like you were the only person in the world. He was just being kind. Nobody's that kind without wanting something, even if it's just wanting to be close to you. It's complicated, Leah said finally. He's helped me more than I can ever repay, given me space and time and safety, but I'm not ready for anything more than that. I don't know if I'll ever be ready. Jessica's expression softened. Fair enough, but Leah, don't close yourself off completely just because Marcus was a monster. Not every man is going to hurt you. I know. In my head I know that. It's my heart that's having trouble catching up. They talked for another hour, catching up on work gossip and route changes, on Jessica's drama with her boyfriend and Leah's careful navigation of her new life. It felt normal, grounding, a reminder that she still had pieces of herself that existed outside of trauma and recovery. By the time Leah arrived at Gianna's apartment that evening, she felt almost steady, almost whole. Gianna lived in Tribeca, in a converted loft with exposed brick and industrial windows. The space was warm despite its size, filled with mismatched furniture and colorful art that spoke to a personality that refused to be contained by expectations. You came? Gianna pulled her into a hug. And you wore the blue blouse. You look gorgeous. I feel ridiculous. You look happy. There's a difference. Gianna linked her arm through Leah's and led her into the open living space where 4 other women were already mingling, wine glasses in hand. Ladies, this is Leah. Leah, this is your tribe. The introductions were warm, casual. There was Maya, a lawyer in her early 30s who'd left her husband after he'd tried to strangle her. Carmen, a 53-year-old teacher whose boyfriend had isolated her from her family for 5 years. Jade, 25 and fierce, who'd escaped a relationship that had nearly killed her confidence along with her body. And Sophia, 42, who spoke with a quiet strength about leaving a marriage that had looked perfect from the outside but was rotting from within. They ate pasta that Gianna had made from scratch, drank wine that was probably too expensive for casual Tuesday dinner, and told stories that ranged from heartbreaking to hilarious. My ex tried to break into my apartment 3 times before the restraining order finally stuck, Maya said, twirling pasta on her fork. The 3rd time, I was ready. Baseball bat and my new boyfriend who happens to be 6'4" and a former linebacker. Did you hit him? Jade asked, eyes wide. Didn't have to. The sight of Marcus. Different Marcus, not your Marcus, Leah. Running away from a very large, very angry football player. Priceless. Mine sent flowers every day for a month after I left, Carmen added. Always with cards about how much he loved me, how he'd changed, how he couldn't live without me. I started donating them to the nursing home down the street. The residents loved them. My ex's money brightening the days of elderly strangers felt like justice. The stories continued, each woman sharing pieces of her journey, the leaving, the rebuilding, the moments of triumph and setback. Leah listened more than she spoke, absorbing the evidence that survival was possible, that life after abuse could be rich and full and joyful. What about you, Leah? Sophia asked gently. Gianna said you're staying with her brother. How's that working out? It's good. Strange, but good. He's giving me space to figure out what I want. And what do you want? Maya asked. Leah set down her wine glass, considering the question seriously. I want to not be afraid anymore. I want to wake up without immediately checking to see what mood someone's in. I want to make decisions without calculating whether they'll anger someone. She paused, surprised by the emotion choking her voice. I want to remember who I was before Marcus, before fear, before I learned to make myself smaller. Gianna reached over and squeezed her hand. You'll get there. We all did. It just takes time. How much time? However long you need. There's no schedule for healing. The evening wound down around 11, the women exchanging phone numbers and promises to meet again. As they filtered out, each one hugged Leah like they'd known her for years instead of hours. Thank you for inviting me, Leah told Gianna as she helped clean up. I didn't realize how much I needed that. Community is everything, Gianna said, loading the dishwasher. We can't heal in isolation. We need witnesses to our becoming. Leah took the subway back to the Upper East Side, her mind full of stories and wine and the strange, tentative hope that maybe, possibly, she could build a life worth living. The penthouse was dark when she entered except for a single lamp left on in the living room. Dante sat in the armchair by the window, a book open in his lap, reading glasses perched on his nose. He looked up when she came in, and something in her chest shifted at the sight of him. This dangerous, powerful man who read literary fiction in his downtime and left lights on so she wouldn't come home to darkness. How was Gianna's dinner? He asked, setting aside the book. Good, really good actually. She introduced me to other women who've been through similar situations. She's good at that, building community, making people feel less alone. He stood up and Leah was struck again by his presence, the way he filled space without overwhelming it. There's leftover risotto in the fridge if you're hungry. Maria made her mushroom truffle recipe. I'm okay. We ate too much pasta. She moved to the window, looking out at the city that had become her refuge. Can I ask you something? Always. Why haven't you asked for anything? In 3 weeks you've given me a place to stay, security, resources, help with legal issues. You've rearranged your entire home life to accommodate a stranger, but you haven't asked for a single thing in return. Dante was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was careful, measured, because the moment I ask for something, you'll wonder if everything before was just manipulation. If I helped you so you'd feel obligated. If I'm any different from Marcus except in method. He moved to stand beside her at the window. Close but not touching. I don't want your gratitude, Leah. I don't want your obligation. I don't want you to feel trapped by my generosity. Then what do you want? Honestly? He turned to look at her, and the intensity in his dark eyes made her breath catch. I want you to heal. I want you to remember who you are when you're not afraid. I want you to build a life that's entirely yours. And if someday, when you're whole and strong and completely free, you decide you want me in that life. He paused. Then I want that too. But not before. Not when you're still figuring out how to breathe without permission. Leah felt tears burning in her eyes. You're making it very hard not to fall for you. Good, because I'm already halfway gone for you. And it seems only fair that you suffer a little too. He smiled, but there was vulnerability in it, a crack in his usually controlled facade. But Leah, I mean what I said. Heal first. Everything else can wait. What if healing takes years? Then it takes years. I'm patient. What if I heal and decide I don't want this, don't want you? Then I'll accept that and be grateful I got to know you at all. He reached out slowly, telegraphing his movement, giving her time to step away. When she didn't, he tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, his touch feather-light. I'm not going anywhere. Take all the time you need. That night, Leah lay in her bed in the guest suite, the door locked from the inside, not because she was afraid of Dante, but because she needed the control, the choice, the knowledge that this space was entirely hers. She thought about the women at Gianna's dinner, about their stories of survival and rebuilding. She thought about Dr. Chen's words about courage and choice. She thought about Dante reading in his chair, patient as stone, waiting for her to become whoever she was meant to be. And for the first time in 2 years, Leah let herself imagine a future that wasn't defined by fear. The next morning, She woke to another note from Dante on the counter. I have to fly to Chicago for business. Back Friday. Marco will be available if you need anything. The apartment is yours. DPS. There's something in your room. Open when you're ready. Curious. Leah went back to the guest suite. On the dresser sat a box wrapped in simple brown paper. She opened it carefully, her breath catching at what she found inside. A camera. Not her grandmother's Polaroid that was gone, destroyed, but a new instant camera, top of the line, with film packs and a note in Dante's precise handwriting. Start capturing your new story. You're the only one who gets to write it now. Leah picked up the camera, feeling its weight in her hands. She walked to the window, aimed at the city sprawled below her, and pressed the shutter. A photo emerged slowly, developing in her hands. The skyline, the morning light, the beginning of something new. She took another photo and another. The apartment, a reflection in the mirror, smiling now. Really smiling. The breakfast Dante had left. A note, her hands free of bruises. Evidence of survival. Evidence of choice. Evidence of becoming. 3 months later, Leah stood in the doorway of her own apartment in the West Village. Small, affordable, entirely hers. She'd saved enough from her international roots, had negotiated with landlords, had built enough credit to sign a lease in her own name. Dante had helped with the deposit. A loan, he'd insisted, to be paid back whenever she could. No interest, no rush. But the rest? The furniture from thrift stores, the plants on the windowsills, the photos she'd taken covering one wall like a gallery of her new life. All her. You did it, Gianna said, standing beside her with a bottle of champagne. Your own place, your own life. I did it. Leah agreed, and the words felt like victory. That night, after Gianna left and Leah was alone in her apartment for the first time, she sat on her second-hand couch with her camera and took one more photo. Her feet propped on her coffee table, her space, her choice, her life. She texted the photo to Dante with a simple message. Thank you for the wings. His response came within minutes. You were always flying. I just helped clear the runway. 6 months after that, Leah stood in the cockpit of a small Cessna at a private airfield outside the city. She'd started pilot training, a dream she'd mentioned once in passing to Dante over dinner. Why not? He'd said. You're already flying through life. Might as well fly planes too. The instructor, a woman named Captain Rodriguez with 30 years of experience, gestured to the controls. Ready to take her up? Leah settled into the pilot seat, her hands steady on the yoke, her heart racing with excitement rather than fear. Ready, she said. The plane lifted off smoothly, climbing into clear blue sky. Below, the city grew smaller, the world expanding in all directions. Leah thought about Marcus, trapped now in his own life of consequences, his control shattered, his power gone. She thought about the woman she'd been, crying in a mirror while her world crumbled, and she thought about the woman she'd become, the one who'd chosen courage over comfort, who'd accepted help without losing herself, who'd learned to fly again. How does it feel? Captain Rodriguez asked over the headset. Leah looked out at the endless sky, at the horizon stretching forward into possibility. Like freedom, she said. It feels like freedom. 1 year to the day after she'd left Marcus, Leah met Dante at a small Italian restaurant in Little Italy. They'd been seeing each other, really seeing each other, for 3 months now. Slow, careful, both of them navigating what it meant to build something real on a foundation of trauma survived and healing earned. I have something for you, Dante said, sliding a small box across the table. Leah opened it to find a key. It's not what you think, he said quickly. It's a key to a hangar at the same airfield where you're training. I bought a plane, small, nothing fancy. Thought maybe you could use it to build hours toward your commercial license. Dante, I can't accept. It's not a gift. It's an investment. In your future, in your dream. He reached across the table, taking her hand. You're going to be a pilot, Leah. A damn good one. Let me help you get there. She looked at this man who'd seen her at her lowest and never once made her feel small, who'd given her space to heal and time to grow, who'd waited patiently while she rebuilt herself from fragments into something whole. On one condition, she said, name it. Fly with me sometime. Not as protection, not as my rescuer, just as Dante, the man who reads literary fiction and makes breakfast and believes I can do anything. He smiled, real and warm and full of something that looked a lot like love. Deal. 2 years after that, Leah stood in the cockpit of a commercial airliner wearing a captain's uniform with 4 stripes on her shoulders. She'd done it, worked her way through training, built her hours, passed every test, earned every certification. The co-pilot, a young man fresh out of flight school, looked at her with obvious admiration. Ready for pushback, Captain Morgan? Captain Morgan. She'd never get tired of hearing that. Ready, she confirmed, running through her pre-flight checklist with practiced ease. In the first-class cabin in seat 2A, Dante Morelli sat with a slight smile, watching the cockpit door where he knew Leah was preparing for takeoff. The flight attendant, not Leah, never Leah anymore, stopped by his seat. Can I get you anything before departure, Mr. Morelli? Just wondering, he said conversationally. Is Captain Morgan flying this route often? Oh yes, sir. She's one of our best. Passengers request her specifically. There's something about the way she flies, like she really understands what it means to have wings. Dante looked out the window at the sky waiting beyond, at the infinite possibility of air and altitude and freedom. Yes, he said quietly, she does. The plane lifted off smoothly, climbing into golden afternoon light. In the cockpit, Leah felt the familiar thrill of leaving the ground, of choosing her own direction, of flying on her own terms. On her uniform, pinned just above her captain's wings, was a small vintage camera pin, a gift from Gianna, a reminder of where she'd been and how far she'd flown. Below, the city grew smaller. Above, the sky stretched endless, and Leah Morgan, survivor and pilot, and author of her own story, flew into her future with steady hands and an open heart. She was finally, completely, breathtakingly free.